Supreme Court judgment on special intensive revision of voter list in Bihar has once again exposed the dubious role the Election Commission of India has been playing and the politics around which the ruling dispensation is indulging. Let me first tell you what is the problem. The Election Commission of India issued a notification last month calling for special intensive revision of voters. Well, the justification is quite simple. EC says in last special intensive revision was taken up in 2003. Since then, there has been several changes: urbanization, migration, even entry of illegal immigrants. So therefore, there are significant amount of deaths. So the EC is right in saying that the electoral voter list revision is imperative, essentially because there may be many duplications. Nothing wrong in revising the voter list. But what has become the problem is, in the name of special intensive revision, the EC says those whose names figure in the base year of 2003 voter list, they need not prove their citizenship. Others should prove their identity as a citizen. There are around 7.9 crore voters in Bihar, out of which nearly 2.93 crore voters have to prove their credentials as a citizen and thereby as a voter. So the problem comes is how to prove that. To that you are a genuine voter. The EC listed 11 documents like birth certificate, caste certificate, matriculation certificate, higher education certificate, and few other like pension orders with the government release. Unfortunately, Aadhaar card, ration card, and the electoral photo identity card, which is issued by the Election Commission only for enabling a voter to vote, these three documents are invalid. So the Election Commission says its own EPI card, voter identity card, is not genuine, is not foolproof. So Election Commission says even Aadhaar is not foolproof. But our caste certificate foolproof, our birth certificate foolproof, our residence certificate foolproof. So when there can be corruption everywhere. Well, passport is also allowed. So the Supreme Court has asked, you are given 11 documents. None of them prove citizenship. Does the passport prove to be a document for citizenship? We have seen even terrorists getting passports. So the caste certificate, residence certificate, matriculation, all these are only identity. They only indicate identity. They don't indicate citizenship. That too, Election Commission of India is not a constitutionally empowered body to decide on the citizenship. It can Article 324 of the Constitution of India invest in Election Commission the power of superintendence of elections. But nowhere it says Election Commission of India will decide the citizenship. It is the prerogative of the Ministry of Home Affairs to decide on the citizenship. But now Election Commission of India says, in the name of revising voter list, they want to decide citizenship. Based on what? Based on government issued identity cards only. So when caste certificate, birth certificate can be a source of identity, when passport can be an identity card, why can't Aadhaar card? Why can't ration card? And Aadhaar card is issued by a statutory authority. So nobody knows. The fact is, why did the Election Commission do this? 87% of the Bihar voters possess Aadhaar cards. Hardly 2% possess passports. So what is the conspiracy behind this being alleged by the opposition? So there is an attempt by the Election Commission of India to deny, to disenfranchise a large section of poor voters. So this led to the litigation in the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court very clearly said the 11 documents which you are mentioning are also identity cards only. If those identity are acceptable, why not other identities like Aadhaar, which is relatively ubiquitous? So the election commission has no answer. So the Supreme Court has clearly said election commission of India is not an authority to decide the citizenship. So election commission of India cannot restrict the number of identities. So the 11 identity cards list is only restricted, it does not exhaustive. So ask election commission of India to consider these three things: Aadhaar card, voter ID card and ration card. In fact, after 2003, there are at least 7 elections in Bihar. And when people have voted in these 7 elections, today you call them potential non-citizen and ask them to prove. The burden of proof lies on the voter, not on the election commissioner. When a person has voted for 4 times, 5 times, 7 times, unless and until some incriminating material is found, which the election commission can prove that this man is not a citizen, how can you potentially doubt everybody? How can you doubt all the voters as non-citizens and levy the burden of proof on them? So this is the fundamental question. Well, this is not the first time Election Commission of India is under fault. Government has tampered with the autonomy of the Election Commission of India. Contrary to the Supreme Court judgment, the Act was amended to ensure that the executive has a full control over who will be the chief election commissioner and election commissioners. In fact, Supreme Court earlier included Chief Justice of India to be one among the members of the search committee. But today government, through an amendment to the Act, nullified the very judgment of the Apex Court. Unless this is politically motivated, why should they do it? So the government, Modi government wants to keep the power of choosing who should be the chief election commissioner, who should be election commissioners under their political control. So that erodes the autonomy of the Election Commission of India. That's a very dangerous signal. In fact, Supreme Court in yesterday's judgment said, Article 324 only says Election Commission of India is a facilitator for voter participation, but it cannot turn into an obstructor. Similarly, the electoral bond scheme. Electoral bond scheme is a fraud on the Constitution. The Supreme Court has rightly abolished the electoral bond scheme, calling it unconstitutional, because there is no transparency in it. The donors are anonymous. It's clearly designed to benefit the ruling party at the center, ruling party, wherever it is. So this kind of a serious assault on the free and fair election, there are serious questions rise on the integrity of the electoral voting machines. So the Supreme Court yesterday said, how can you take a special intensive revision, such a massive exercise, when elections are due in November? So the timing and the process of this special intensive revision were under serious challenge before the Apex Court. So Apex Court only said, why can't you de-link it with Bihar elections? If you are really serious about cleaning the electoral voter list and ensure that the non-citizen will creep into the voter list, that is a great exercise. Absolutely no problem. But why do you do it so hurriedly, that too 2 months before the Bihar election? Why can't you de-link with the election? That's what the Supreme Court has said. So there were even allegations of tuning the election schedule to suit the Prime Minister's programs. So in fact, there are serious questions like massive increase in the voter percentage after 6 p.m., discrepancies in what was the initial voter estimate and final estimate. In Maharashtra, we have seen 39 lakh new voters were enrolled between the general elections and assembly elections within a period of few months. So people opposition is telling that what is happening in Bihar is a reverse Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, 39 lakh voters were added. In Bihar, voters are deleted. So this is a serious constitutional question. Free and fair elections are form part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Any tampering with the Election Commission of India, any allegations of political intent in EC actions will erode the credibility of the electoral process.